there comes a quiet moment when the mind grows tired of carrying people who are not carrying you. A moment when your heart whispers that you have been generous enough with your thoughts, your prayers, your late nights. That moment is not weakness. It is wisdom arriving softly. Do not think too much about anyone who does not think enough about you. Your mind is a sacred place. It is not a waiting room for indifference. It is a garden meant to grow courage, laughter, and peace. When you give your thoughts away without care, you scatter your power. And power once scattered takes time to gather again. You were not born to chase echoes of attention or to replay conversations that never bloomed into truth. You were born to rise with intention, to speak with grace, to walk with a backbone made of hope. Some people will pass through your life like a season. They teach you when to bloom and when to let go. Bless them and release them. I know it is tempting to replay their words, to search for meaning, to wonder why you were not enough. But listen closely. You are not required to solve the silence of others. You are required to honor your own voice. Your worth does not shrink because someone failed to see it. Your light does not dim because another chose darkness. Your mind is a sacred space, not a shelter for those who offer you indifference. Think about that slowly and let it settle. Your mind is where your dreams are born, where your courage takes shape, where your faith gathers strength. It is not an empty room meant to be occupied by people who do not knock with care. Yet so often we allow others to move in without permission. We let their silence sit heavy in our thoughts. We let their distance rearrange our peace. We let their lack of effort steal hours of our inner life. When someone treats you with indifference, and you continue to give them your attention, you are not being loyal. You are being unkind to yourself. You are offering your most valuable resource to someone who does not know how to hold it. Time can be replaced. Energy can be restored. But the thoughts you give away shape who you become. Every moment spent overthinking someone who does not show up is a moment taken from your own becoming. Your mind was designed to lift you, not to imprison you. It was created to imagine possibility, not to rehearse rejection. When you allow indifference to live rent-free in your thoughts, it slowly changes the way you see yourself. You begin to question your voice, your value, your worth. You start measuring yourself by how much you are noticed instead of how deeply you are grounded. That is how peace is lost quietly without warning. There is a difference between caring and carrying. Caring is gentle and balanced. Carrying is heavy and exhausting. When you think too much about someone who gives you nothing in return, you are carrying them. You carry their moods, their absence, their choices. And soon you forget that your mind was never meant to be a storage place for emotional weight that is not yours. You do not owe anyone access to your inner world. Not because you are cold, but because you are conscious. Your thoughts should be reserved for growth, healing, purpose, and love that is mutual. When someone consistently shows you that they are unavailable, distracted, or uninterested, believe the lesson and not the fantasy. Respect the message even when it arrives quietly. It takes strength to stop thinking about someone who once mattered. It takes courage to close a mental door that has been open for too long. But strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is the calm decision to redirect your focus back to yourself. Back to your breath, your goals, your future. Back to the life that is waiting for you to step into it, fully present. When you guard your mind, you protect your energy. When you protect your energy, you protect your direction. A distracted mind walks in circles. A focused mind moves forward. You cannot walk boldly into your future while constantly looking over your shoulder at people who chose not to walk with you. There is nothing noble about self-neglect disguised as loyalty. Your peace is not something you find after everything makes sense. It is something you choose even when it does not. Choosing peace means deciding that your mind deserves better than constant emotional noise. It means understanding that silence from others is not an invitation to overthink, but a signal to refocus. Give your thoughts to things that give you life, to people who show up with intention, to ideas that stretch you beyond fear. Let indifference pass through your life without taking residence in your mind. You are allowed to let go without guilt. You are allowed to move on without explanation. Your mind is sacred. Treat it that way. Overthinking others is often the quiet abandonment of yourself. It does not announce itself loudly or arrive with obvious harm. It happens slowly in the background of your days. It begins when you place someone else at the center of your thoughts and slowly move yourself to the edges. You start checking your phone more than you check your heart. You replay their words while ignoring your own needs. Without realizing it, you begin to live in reaction instead of intention. Every time your thoughts circle endlessly around another person, you step a little further away from yourself. You delay your rest, your joy, your progress, because your mind is busy trying to understand someone who has not made the effort to understand you. This is not love. This is self-neglect dressed in hope. And hope without boundaries can become a quiet kind of harm. You abandon yourself when you give more attention to someone's mood than to your own peace. When you measure your worth by how quickly they respond. When your day rises or falls based on their presence or absence. In these moments, you are teaching yourself that your value depends on being chosen rather than being whole. That lesson is heavy, and it follows you into every area of your life. The mind cannot serve two masters. When it is occupied with constant analysis of someone else, it has little room left for your own growth. Dreams get postponed. Goals feel distant. Even joy feels interrupted. You may smile, but inside you are elsewhere trying to solve a puzzle that was never yours to solve. That is how people lose themselves without ever leaving the room. There is a subtle sadness that comes with overthinking others. It is the sadness of knowing you are present for someone who is not present for you. It is the fatigue of waiting for clarity from someone who benefits from your confusion. And while you wait, life keeps moving. Opportunities pass quietly. Moments that could have been beautiful go unnoticed because your mind is busy holding on to someone who has already let go. Choosing yourself does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop disappearing. It means you recognize that your needs deserve the same attention you so freely give to others. It means you understand that love should not require self-erasure. Healthy connection expands you. It does not shrink you. When you bring your attention back to yourself, something powerful happens. You start hearing your own voice again. You notice what excites you, what drains you, what heals you. You begin to rebuild trust with yourself. And that trust becomes a foundation stronger than any validation you were chasing. Letting go of overthinking is an act of self-respect. It is saying, I will not abandon myself to chase someone else's understanding. It is choosing clarity over confusion and presence over obsession. You do not need to have all the answers. You only need to decide that your peace matters. Your mind is not meant to orbit around another person. It is meant to guide you home to yourself. And the moment you stop overthinking others, you begin returning to the life that has been patiently waiting for you. Not everyone deserves a permanent place in your thoughts. This truth can feel uncomfortable at first because many of us were taught that loyalty means holding on no matter how heavy it becomes. But loyalty without wisdom turns into emotional clutter. Your mind, like your life, has limited space. When it is filled with people who no longer belong, there is little room left for peace, clarity, and growth. Some people enter your life to teach you not to stay. Others arrive to remind you of your strength. And some come simply to pass through. Yet we often try to give everyone a lifetime seat in our inner world. We replay their voices long after they have stopped speaking to us. We carry their opinions even when they no longer walk beside us. This is how temporary connections become permanent distractions. A permanent place in your thoughts should be earned through consistency, respect, and care. It should be reserved for those who show up with sincerity, not just words. When someone repeatedly shows you who they are, believe them. Do not rewrite their behavior into a version that feels easier to hold. Your mind deserves truth, not hope built on absence. There is a difference between remembering someone and living with them in your thoughts. Memory can be gentle and brief. Overthinking is invasive and constant. When someone occupies your mental space without permission, it drains your energy and blurs your focus. You begin to respond to life through the lens of the past, instead of meeting the present as it is. Letting go of someone mentally does not erase what you shared. It simply honors the season for what it was. Growth often requires releasing attachments that no longer align with who you are becoming. Holding on out of habit keeps you tied to old versions of yourself. And you cannot step into a new chapter while constantly rereading the previous one. You may feel guilt when you start clearing space in your thoughts. Guilt for moving on. Guilt for choosing peace. But peace does not mean you did not care. It means you care enough about yourself to stop bleeding quietly. Your mind is not a museum for everyone you have ever loved. It is a living space that needs room to breathe. When you allow only the right people to remain in your thoughts, your inner world becomes lighter. Decisions become clearer. Your energy returns. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. You stop chasing closure from those who could not give it. And in that silence, you finally hear your own truth. Some people will always be a part of your story. But not everyone gets a permanent role. Some were only meant to be a sentence, a paragraph, or a lesson. Accepting this is not coldness. It is emotional maturity. It is understanding that your thoughts shape your reality, and your reality deserves care. Choose wisely who you allow to live in your mind. Release those who no longer serve your growth. Make space for yourself, your future, and the peace you have been postponing. Peace begins the moment you stop replaying people who have moved on. Not when they explain themselves. Not when they return. Not when you finally understand every word that was left unsaid. Peace begins when you decide that your mind will no longer be a stage for memories that no longer live in the present. It begins when you accept that some chapters ended without a proper goodbye, and that this ending is still complete. Replaying people in your mind is often an attempt to change the past. You replay conversations to say what you wish you had said. You replay moments to see where things shifted. You replay their absence, hoping to find meaning in the silence. But the past does not change no matter how many times you visit it. All that changes is you. You become tired. You become stuck. You become emotionally anchored to a place life has already moved beyond. When someone moves on, they make a choice. And when you continue to replay them, you make a choice too. One choice opens the door to new experiences. The other keeps you standing in the hallway, wondering why the door closed. There is no clarity hidden in repetition. There is only exhaustion. Peace does not come from understanding everything. It comes from accepting what is. It is difficult to stop replaying someone who once mattered. The mind clings to familiarity even when it hurts. Pain we recognize feels safer than uncertainty we cannot predict. But holding on to someone who has moved on does not keep them close. It only keeps you distant from yourself. While you are replaying them, you are missing the quiet opportunities waiting to meet you where you are now. Every time you replay someone who has moved on, you reopen a wound that was trying to heal. You slow down your own recovery. You interrupt moments that could have been peaceful. You teach your mind to stay alert for something that is no longer coming. And this constant waiting steals your ability to be present in your own life. Peace arrives when you stop asking why and start choosing now. When you stop interpreting silence and start listening to your own needs. When you stop building stories around absence and start building a future around self-respect. Moving on mentally is not forgetting. It is choosing not to suffer twice for the same ending. There is strength in closing the mental loop, in saying this chapter has ended even without closure. Closure is not something another person gives you. It is a decision you make to stop carrying unfinished conversations in your thoughts. When you stop replaying people who have moved on, you reclaim your attention. And attention is power. As you redirect your thoughts, your nervous system softens, your breath deepens. Your days feel lighter. You stop reacting to ghosts of the past and start responding to the reality of the present. You notice beauty again. You laugh without guilt. You rest without checking your phone. These small moments are signs that peace is returning. Letting go is not erasing love. It is allowing love to change form. What once lived as attachment can become wisdom. What once felt like loss can become clarity. But only if you stop reopening doors that were meant to stay closed. Peace is not found by holding on. It is found by letting go. Your worth does not rise or fall with someone else's attention. This truth is simple, but living it requires courage. Many people spend years tying their sense of value to how they are seen, how they are chosen, how quickly they are noticed. When attention is given, they feel alive. When it is withdrawn, they feel invisible. This cycle quietly teaches the mind a dangerous lesson, that worth must be earned rather than remembered. Attention is unstable. It shifts with moods, priorities, and seasons. If your worth depends on it, then your peace will always be temporary. One moment you feel confident. The next you feel uncertain. Not because you changed, but because someone else did. That is too fragile a foundation to build your life on. You deserve something steadier. When you measure yourself by someone else's attention, you begin to perform instead of exist. You adjust your words, your tone, your behavior, just to stay visible. You silence parts of yourself to avoid being misunderstood. Over time, you forget what it feels like to be natural. You are present but not authentic. Seen but not known. And this slow disconnection from yourself is painful. There is a deep exhaustion that comes from chasing validation. It keeps you alert, always watching, always waiting. Waiting for a reply. Waiting for approval. Waiting to feel enough. But the moment you stop chasing attention and start honoring your own value, something shifts. You stand differently. You speak with more clarity. You move with less urgency. You no longer need to be chosen because you have chosen yourself. Your worth was not created by someone noticing you. It existed long before their eyes ever met yours. It lives in your resilience, your kindness, your ability to grow. It lives in the way you rise after disappointment. It lives in the integrity you carry when no one is watching. These things do not disappear when attention fades. They remain. When someone gives you attention, it should add to your life, not define it. It should feel like connection, not confirmation. Healthy relationships are not built on proving your value. They are built on mutual respect. The moment attention becomes a measurement of worth, imbalance begins. There will be times when attention is inconsistent or absent. People get distracted. Priorities change, paths separate. These moments are not reflections of your value. They are reflections of circumstance. Do not personalize what is not personal. Do not shrink yourself to fit into someone else's focus. Learning to separate your worth from attention is an act of freedom. It releases you from constant comparison. It allows you to enjoy presence without fearing absence. It helps you show up fully without attachment to outcome. You become grounded rather than reactive, whole rather than dependent. When you stop tying your worth to attention, you stop overthinking others. You stop reading into silence. You stop questioning yourself when someone pulls away. You understand that attention is something people give, but worth is something you carry. Stand in your value even when no one is watching. Especially then, because self-recognition is the strongest form of confidence. And a person who knows their worth does not beg for attention. Choose clarity over confusion and self-respect over emotional noise. This choice sounds simple, but it asks you to unlearn habits that once felt like survival. Confusion often disguises itself as hope. Emotional noise often disguises itself as connection, and without awareness you can spend years mistaking chaos for depth and uncertainty for love. Confusion keeps you questioning everything. What did they mean? Why did they change? Should I wait or move on? These questions repeat until they become the background sound of your life. Meanwhile, clarity waits quietly, asking you to notice what is already being shown. Not what is promised, not what is imagined, but what is consistently present. When someone brings confusion into your life, they take more than your time. They take your peace. You find yourself reading between lines that should have been clear. You begin doubting your intuition. You over-explain your feelings, hoping to be understood. And slowly you accept less than you deserve just to keep something going. This is not compromise. This is erosion of self-respect. Self-respect is not loud. It does not argue for its place. It observes and decides. It recognizes patterns. It understands that mixed signals are a signal, that inconsistency is information, that emotional noise is often a warning, not a mystery to solve. When you choose self-respect, you stop engaging with what confuses you. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. Emotional noise drains your energy. It keeps your nervous system alert, always waiting for the next shift, the next message, the next explanation. Peace cannot live in a mind that is constantly decoding. Your soul needs simplicity. It needs truth that does not require translation. Choosing clarity means asking yourself honest questions. How do I feel after interacting with this person? Do I feel grounded or anxious? Do I feel seen or uncertain? Do I feel respected or tolerated? Your body often knows the answer before your mind is willing to accept it. Clarity does not always come with comfort. Sometimes it arrives with disappointment. Sometimes it means accepting that someone cannot meet you where you are. But clarity heals faster than confusion ever will. Confusion keeps wounds open. Clarity allows them to close. Self-respect means you no longer negotiate your peace. You no longer chase explanations from people who benefit from your uncertainty. You stop entertaining emotional noise just to avoid loneliness. You understand that being alone with peace is better than being surrounded by confusion. When you choose clarity, your focus sharpens. You stop overthinking people who cannot be clear with you. You stop investing energy where it is not returned. You begin to trust yourself again. And that trust becomes your anchor. This choice will change how you move through life. You will speak less but mean more. You will tolerate less but feel more fulfilled. You will no longer mistake intensity for intimacy. You will no longer confuse effort with attachment. Clarity creates space. Space for healthier connections, space for growth, space for peace. And in that space you find yourself again. Let your thoughts serve your growth, not your worries. This is where freedom truly begins. The mind will always produce thoughts. That is its nature. But you are not required to entertain every thought that knocks. Some thoughts build bridges to your future. Others dig holes in your peace. Wisdom is knowing the difference and choosing what you feed. Worry feels active, but it produces nothing. It convinces you that thinking more will protect you, prepare you, or prevent pain. In reality, worry keeps you stuck in imagined outcomes that may never arrive. Growth, on the other hand, asks for presence. It asks you to invest your thoughts in what you can shape right now. Your habits, your mindset, your direction. One moves you forward. The other keeps you circling. When your thoughts are consumed by worry, you live ahead of yourself. You are never fully here. You rehearse conversations that may never happen. You anticipate reactions that are not yours to control. You exhaust yourself emotionally before life even asks you to respond. This constant mental noise leaves little space for creativity, clarity, or calm. thoughts that serve growth feel different. They challenge you without draining you. They ask questions that lead to action, not anxiety. What can I learn? What can I improve? What is within my control today? These thoughts do not deny difficulty, but they refuse to be ruled by fear. Your mind becomes what you repeatedly place inside it. If you fill it with worry, it will search for more reasons to worry. If you fill it with intention, it will look for opportunities to grow. This is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about choosing where your attention lies. Many worries are rooted in things you cannot change. Other people's decisions, past mistakes, uncertain futures. When your thoughts revolve around these things, you give power to what is beyond you. Growth happens when you redirect that power back to yourself, to your response, to your resilience, to your ability to adapt. Letting your thoughts serve growth means setting boundaries within your own mind. It means noticing when a thought is not helping and gently releasing it. It means reminding yourself that not every problem needs to be solved right now. Some things resolve with time. Some resolve with distance. Some resolve the moment you stop overthinking them. This practice requires patience. The mind will wander back to worry out of habit. Do not judge yourself for this. Simply return. Each time you redirect your thoughts, you strengthen self-trust. You prove to yourself that you are not powerless over your inner world. As your thoughts shift, your life begins to feel lighter. You respond instead of react. You plan instead of panic. You breathe more deeply. You sleep more peacefully. You stop borrowing trouble from tomorrow and start living today with more awareness. Growth-focused thoughts do not rush you. They ground you. They remind you that progress is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet consistency, showing up, letting go, choosing peace again and again. Your thoughts are tools. Use them to build, not to break yourself down. Use them to expand, not to imprison. When you allow your thoughts to serve your growth, you step into a life guided by intention rather than fear. As we come to the end of these words, remember this one truth above all others: your mind is your home. Guard it with care. Fill it with thoughts that heal, strengthen, and move you forward. You were never meant to carry everyone. You were never meant to solve every silence or chase every shadow. The moment you choose yourself, you choose peace, and peace will always lead you in the right direction. May you walk away from here lighter, clearer, and more rooted in your own worth. May you trust yourself enough to let go of what no longer serves you, and brave enough to protect the quiet power within you. Your journey ahead does not require overthinking. It requires faith in who you are becoming. I wish you clarity, strength, and calm as you move forward. Good luck on your path, and thank you for listening.